سالكا سبل المعالي مخلصا ترجو من الرحمن رفعة منزلي شمر.
Fleeing from fate to fate. 40 ahadith on contagion and pandemics by Mufti Muhammad Taha Karan.
Chapter 2. Preventative Measures.
Hadith number 6. Harm neither yourself nor another. عن عبادة بن صامت رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لا ضرر ولا ضرار. رواه ابن ماجه. Ubadah bin Samit radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, harm neither yourself nor the next person. Narrated by Ibn Majah. Purpose of law. The purpose of the Sharia is to regulate human life in all of its dimensions. It covers both faith and practice, and in terms of practice, it extends to areas of worship, social life, commerce, health and medicine, leisure, and much more. In a nutshell, it is a legal system that embraces all aspects of life. From a legal vantage point, human life is a set of competing rights and duties which at times coexist harmoniously but often clash between themselves. It is when they happen to clash that harm comes to fall upon some individuals. Any legal system that has the regulation of human life as its purpose must contain within itself mechanisms for the removal of harm in a manner that ensures that rights are restored, obligations are performed, victims receive support, and aggressors are held in check. The removal of harm is in fact a major feature of our Sharia, represented in one of its 5 universal rules, which states, harm shall be removed. This rule, which is one of the 5 rules upon the foundation of which the entire edifice of our legal philosophy rests, finds its origin in the hadith which states, harm neither yourself nor another. Pandemics and harm. One of the most obvious features of a pandemic is that the behavior which people choose for themselves have an effect on harm either to themselves or to others around them. Accordingly, the question may be asked as to what specific guidance the Sharia offers to regulate human conduct during pandemics. As the ahadith in this chapter will demonstrate, our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not leave us rudderless during such episodes. They will prove that the adoption of preventative physical measures has a solid foundation in the Sunnah and is in no way foreign to Islam or the product of a perceived clash between Sharia and secular law. Therefore, the Muslim who believes in the position of the majority of the ulama that viruses do play a role in spreading disease, and that physical proximity and contact are the factors set in place by Allah as the normative and conventional causes of contagious spread, and that preventative measures are enjoined by the Sharia prior to any law and are prescribed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before any government official, he is the kind of person who is willing to sacrifice some of his freedom and temporarily give up some of his normal activities, not out of a lack of faith and irreligiousness, but due to his conviction that the need for measures such as these arises out of the Sharia prior to secular law having anything to say about it, and that it is religion that prescribes them before state. He knows fully well that indifference in behavior is likely to cause harm to himself or those around him, and he knows that our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam prohibited the infliction of such harm. Maqasid of the Sharia. The process of distilling overarching universal principles from the Sharia took 2 distinct pathways. On the one hand, there was the extraction and formulation of the legal maxims known as qawa'id fiqhiyya, while on the other hand the maqasid, or higher purposes of the Sharia, came to be formulated. There are few concepts in the Sharia that have been as misunderstood and abused as the maqasid. Where one extreme end of the spectrum seeks to raise the concept of maqasid to the level of cancelling the writ of Quran and Sunnah, the other extreme edge insists that it should be completely rejected and disregarded. Each individual point of law in the Sharia seeks to achieve a certain outcome. The overarching outcomes which the Sharia strives to realize have been tabulated as 5: the preservation of life, religion, property, intellect, and progeny. When distilled out of their natural habitat, which lies within the body of law that is the Sharia, clashes between these objectives are quite easy to imagine. The death penalty, for example, sets aside the preservation of the individual's life for a higher purpose, while the obligation of zakah represents an encroachment of sorts on the purpose of preserving property. Very clearly, the formulation of law must involve a certain ordering of values. The central question would therefore appear to be, by what yardstick does such ordering occur? As important as that question might be in issues that lie beyond the immediate ambit of the texts of the Quran and Sunnah, it happens to have very little bearing on the matter of pandemics and adopting preventative measures during them. This is because, like so many other laws in Islam, the process of ordering maqasid values is here already enshrined in the texts themselves, leaving no need for any jurist to attempt an ordering of his own. A few textual examples might help to convey a better understanding of how maqasid work in a situation where the ordering of values has been taken care of in the texts. One of the problems that the early Muslims faced in Makkah was that of being forced to recant their faith by speaking words of kufr. The coercion caused life to be pitted against faith. The question of how to order the one against the other was answered in the revelation of the 106th verse of Surah An-Nahl. من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان ولكن من شرح بالكفر صدرا فعليهم غضب من الله. Whoever disbelieves in Allah after believing, not those who are forced while their hearts are firm in faith, but those who embrace disbelief wholeheartedly, upon them will be Allah's anger. Here the preservation of life received preference over the preservation of faith, even if only for that moment of coercion. The one who assigned that preference was Allah Himself, and not a human jurist. At one stage during the Battle of the Trench, the sustained threat from outside caused Asr to have to be delayed till after sunset. The defense of Medina, together with the holistic preservation of religion and life that it entailed, was given preference over the preservation of one important but atomistic aspect of religion, as undesirable as it was. The ordering of the maqasid in this case was again not the discretionary of a fallible jurist. The Battle of Badr took place in Ramadan. On this occasion, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam instructed the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum not to fast. In this case, the ordering of maqasid values happened in favor of the preservation of religion holistically, as opposed to maintaining the atomistic obligation of fasting. Examples of this nature can be listed to no end. The entire Sharia is replete with examples of Allah or Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam setting the law through ordering the maqasid values themselves. This is exactly how maqasid work in the case of preventative measures against a pandemic. The ordering of one maqasid-based consideration against another is not the mere discretion of a jurist or scholar. As the hadith in this chapter and the one following it will demonstrate, it is to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam that the process of assigning precedence to one value over the other reverts. There may indeed be instances which do not fall within the ambit of any particular or general text. Such instances, too, abound in the Sharia and have specific rules and procedures for dealing with them. In the context of pandemics and preventative measures against harm, however, we have no need to dwell at length on those procedures, if for no other reason than for the simple fact that the maqasid-based values that pertain to this context have already been adequately ordered in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
عذب المنهل